Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. We are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friend Preston Poulter from PocketJackComics.com. And if you actually go to PocketJackComics.com and sign up for his email list, he will happily send you 3 copies of his book in PDF form so you can actually try it before you buy it. So you can check that out. And on top of that, I have an eBay store, Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And speaking about Preston, he was graciously kind enough to send me 50 or 60 copies of White Lily number 4 out of 5 that everybody's getting until I run out of them in my supplies. So if you order from my eBay store, and I got a lot of cool books, including I just bought out a whole variant print run of this little bad boy right here, of the hollow foil version, bought out all 15 of them. So yes, you can only buy it from me. It is a beautiful book. So I'm sorry that if you want this in a hollow foil, you're stuck buying it from me. That is on my eBay store, so that is also something to look out for. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Kurt Zauer, who currently has a book on Kickstarter. So welcome to the show.
How we doing? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Obviously, you got a book on Kickstarter, and it's Ruxy Vampire issue 1. And it's a very interesting book. And before we dive into the campaign a little bit, what is the basic premise for those who are hearing about it for the first time? Because some people know your book, some people don't. And obviously, I kind of want to get everybody up to speed before we dive into it.
Yeah. No, it's a vampire story. It's about a beautiful vampire that goes to sleep in late 1880s London and wakes up finding herself in 1926 Chicago in the middle of the Prohibition era. So she's kind of a particular breed, a different breed of vampire. I wanted to play with the vampire myth a little bit, make my vampires a little different, a little unique. So when she went to sleep, she was turned to stone. The sunlight turns these vampires to stone instead of killing them, destroying them. So somehow she and her brother wake up in a 1926 Chicago apartment as part of a mob hit. Their statues sitting there, and they get the back blow of blood from the mob hit, and that wakes them up, and they find themselves in this strange place and having to deal with Chicago and Prohibition and the things that go on at that time. So yeah.
Let's dive into this a little bit, because obviously you got a lot of stuff in play. You got vampires, and there's been plenty of good stuff with vampires, and there's been plenty of bad stuff with vampires.
Oh yeah.
We don't have to nitpick, guys. We don't have to nitpick. I'm just saying that it's all right if you're into Twilight. It's all right. We forgive you. We forgive you. We all make mistakes in life. It's all right. You get at least 5 mistakes.
Oh, right. That's okay. Vampire mistakes.
But each book is a mistake in of itself. So if you read all 3, you're down to only 2 left.
No.
But obviously, all jokes aside, you also have what I was saying is Chicago. You have Prohibition. Obviously, you have, I guess, a alternative history component to it as well. Yeah. And so what is that like? Because you kind of created what I like to call a sandbox, where you have a lot of different elements mashed up together, and they can go in a lot of different directions. And it creates a very interesting story. It's kind of like in wrestling, when you have a very small person facing a very large person, styles clash in certain ways. So what is that like? Because it's kind of what your book is a little bit.
Well, I really wanted to do, like you say, there are so many vampire stories out there. I wanted to play with the vampire myth. Again, these vampires, they're called Sel Rao. They're descended from Vlad Dracula. So they're the grandchildren of Vlad Dracula, and Ruxy is short for Ruxandra Tepesh, who was the actual granddaughter of Vlad Dracula Tepesh. And I thought that Ruxandra was such a cool name, and if she ever wound up in In Chicago, what would they call her? Well, they'd shorten it. They'd call her Ruxy. So, uh, so yeah, they when they burn in the sun, they get turned to stone. Also, they're a little bit closer to humanity than other vampires. So if they drink blood from a human, it kind of rejuvenates the fluids and the nectars in their body, so they can eat real food. They can drink human, beverages and things like that. So when they wake up in this apartment, they're all stressed out, and the first thing they want is a drink. So and then that's how they learn about prohibition and what's going on, and they kind of make little jaunts out into the world of Chicago and the world of prohibition, and they clash with the things that go on, and maybe they get an offer from one of the gangland sides. At that time, it was South Side versus North Side. Al Capone versus Bugs Moran. So they kind of fall in the middle of that.
So let's actually talk about this, because obviously you take a 1800s vampire, bring them 100 years or so kind of into the future. Technology has changed dramatically. I think 1820s, 1840s were very different than 1926.
Yep.
Then on top of that, you're now throwing them into a very complicated time in America, Prohibition, obviously Chicago in that time, very gang driven, very mob driven. And now what is that like? Because all their mannerisms and all of everything they know is culture shocked, but then they're sort of also fitting in, but also Ruxy's personality is somewhat rebellious.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to exactly live up to her family's legacy. I think she wants to forge her own, is what I got out of the story. And maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but that's kind of what I got out of it. And she's in an opportunity where she can do that. And so what is that like? Because it makes for a really interesting story where you have a vampire who is this legacy-driven vampire now in a land to make, her own opportunities and her own footing. And she's got a little bit of a rebellious side. And it's kind of a very cool thing, because her personality matches the setting and the opportunity can now occur. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's what's so interesting about it.
Oh no, you're spot on. I mean, she was raised in a very, she was raised, Dracula was the prince of Wallachia, so she was kind of raised in that, to be proper, to be a princess, to be regal, and to be a politician. But and then she's got her triplet. She's the grandchildren are triplets, and she's got her brother there with her, and he's kind of the straight guy, and he kind of embraced that. He's the diplomat, he's the regal guy, but Ruxy just wanted to mix it up and drink and carouse and fight with swords and learn about guns and things like that. So yeah, now that she's in Chicago, she also has a bit of a gambling problem. So so that's kind of gotten her in trouble before, and her exasperated brother is always there to kind of bail her out of problems that she has. But yeah, she's the one that kind of gets out of the apartment they wake up in, and she is kind of testing the waters, and of course whatever money they have, she throws it all on a horse to win, and I can't give too much away, but that's where the story begins, and that's where the hectic stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, stuff starts happening. Obviously, they're in gangland, for lack of a better word. Obviously, they're in Chicago. There's moonshine running. There's booze running. There's all sorts of other stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the whole, history of Chicago in 1926. But it's interesting that you also mentioned her brother, because this is one of the problems that I have in comics is the issue of balance. Mm-hmm. Where sometimes I don't know how you feel, but sometimes I want a story that is not balanced at all, where it's just action. It's like an hour and a half of pure action.
Yeah.
And it's just insane. But I know what I'm signing up for. But when you actually want to story tell, I feel you need to have balance. And her brother, I think Marku, I think, or I don't know if that's how you say it. I'm sure you're going to correct me if I got it wrong.
No, Marku, that's right. Yep.
But he is very much a foil to her because he is the exact opposite of what she is, where he is very calm. He likes classical music. He tends to have, I think, a calmer approach and I guess wants to be more civilized, and she's rambunctious and rebellious. And what is that like? Because that also creates a very cool scenario where now you have balance to your book.
Yeah. He's also very protective of his sister, but again, he's the male of the triplets, so he was kind of groomed to be the inheritor of Wallachia, and eventually, when Vlad Dracula died or retired, he would be the one to take over. So he's kind of that political guy, and Ruxy is really a tomboy, and those two clash all the time. He's kind of always rolling his eyes at the trouble she gets into, but she's and they're kind of at different ends of the spectrum with the third triplet, Cesara, who is completely out of her mind, kind of a crazy necromancer, just disaster wherever she goes, and she gets introduced very late in the book, and she kind of is the villain of the story, and she's missing an eye. She's got the quintessential eye patch, so she's got an eye that's out there somewhere that's still alive. It might be turned to stone somewhere, and she hasn't been able to find it yet. So the three triplets. Ruxy's kind of in the middle. Marku is very calm and refined. Ruxy's in the middle, going crazy, and Cesara is way over here, completely out of her mind.
So let's actually talk about this, because obviously you have now a circumstance, and obviously this is, I guess, one leg of the story where you have Ruxy on one side, but overall, I think that she leans more to the good side of things, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. You have Marku, who is obviously very much in the middle, trying, I guess, be stabilization. And then you have Cesara on the other, who is sort of batshit crazy. And obviously it's a family dynamic, and Cesara is causing havoc everywhere. And it really creates a very interesting position, because I don't know how you feel about comics. And obviously I read a lot of indie comics. I read a lot of mainstream stuff. I watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of anime. And I've seen a lot of really good stuff that's been really well balanced and really well presented. But I've seen stuff that isn't. And it's not that it's written poorly. It's the concept was messed up. And so what is that like, to kind of set up a concept where you have Ruxy on one side of the scale and you have Cesara on the other, and you have Marku in the middle, kind of, I guess, balancing or attempting to? Because that's what I find is a big problem right now in comics, is that you don't have that balance. And it doesn't have to be a good versus bad story, but if you have a crazy character, you need a character who is calm to balance out that crazy character. And it's a real storytelling, I think, deficit right now in comics completely. And it's not just comics. I mean, it's everything.
Well, yeah, there's a whole history. I mean, there's a whole history. Cesara is not, basically, Ruxy and Marku turned to stone on purpose to get away from Cesara. They were being hounded by vampire hunters. They were being hounded by the police in London, and that'll be fleshed out more in future issues. But those two were basically on the run from Cesara, and because Cesara has some beef with them that's also yet to be revealed. But they were so close to getting caught that they, gave themselves to the sunlight, and basically for them it was committing suicide, because you get turned to stone and you don't know what's going to happen to you after that. So So yeah, I wanted to play with the sibling dynamic. Ruxy and Marco are really close, and Cesara is way out, and she's got some issue. She's feels left out. She's not part of the family, kind of, in a way. So kind of the bad seed thing, but yeah. So she's not in Chicago when this book is taking place, but she wants to get into the booze business because she wants that money. So eventually, that's how they're gonna connect. How Cesar is gonna find out about them is through illicit booze running, that kind of thing.
And do you also feel that, because obviously, I mean, this book is being spun off out of, Spectris, Sabian, and that also, I think, changes things too, because I don't know too much about Spectris, Sabian. I think I read the first issue that you sent me, but I didn't get too much further into it just due to time. But obviously, when you do spin things out, I mean, you have set up the world
Yep.
already in certain ways. You've set up the rules of the world. Obviously, I think some time has passed between Spectris, Sabian, and this book, but certain things have obviously maintained themselves. And what is that like? Because this is its own identity, this book, but it also does have ties to that other book. And
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Well, Spectrus and Sabanian is more of I mean, their story starts in ancient Egypt and goes through the modern times, and Ruxy actually occurs in 1926. So I'm playing with the I have a whole timeline available to me. So if I want to tell a story in Renaissance England, I can do that with Spectrus, or Vietnam, or Vietnam War, or whatever. So I can play with these different time periods, and so I'm setting Ruxy in Prohibition era Chicago, and Spectrus is going to have like a cameo. Spectrus ties into that story, but it's going to be back, at kind of almost old history.
the reason why I asked this is because obviously when you create your first story, and obviously world building is really important. And this is also what I think is one of the biggest deficits in comics is that you create a story, you bang it out, and you only have 4 issues in it. And then what do? You just spent 2, 3, 4 years building out a world, and then you can't plan it again, or it's hard to plan it. And I think that's a real issue sometimes. And I think with what you're doing is that obviously you could play in and out, and Spectrus obviously goes through ancient Egypt to modern times.
Right.
And but you also have rules established, and it's tricky though, because if you do something in, this book that's right now being funded, and it breaks a rule for Spectrus, how do you get in and out of that? And you also can't, do something that's going to massively change the world in this book. And so it's very interesting because you're playing sometimes in dangerous territory, but also this is sort of like a side quest as well. I mean, to use a D&D term. And
Yeah.
so like it's very cool because fast forward, let's say you do 6 issues of this book, and then you do 6 issues in 1956, and then you continue Spectrus, and you got 30 issues of that. These are almost just in addition to what's going on. I don't know if that makes any sense. And when you're building a bigger world and a bigger universe, it gets very interesting when you start tying in components next to each other. And so what is that like for you? Because obviously this is the infancy and the vision hasn't been achieved yet, for lack of a better word.
Right. No, honestly, it's fun. It's fun to play with new characters in in my own little sandbox. So I call it the Sans verse. It's the Spectrus and Sabanian universe. So right now, I mean, I do have issue 5 of Spectrus and Sabanian in the pipe right now. So that's going to come out after this Kickstarter. probably January, February timeframe. But no, you're absolutely right. I have to make sure the continuity and Ruxy and what happens there, and the madness that goes on there, is accounted for in Spectrus and Sabanian. How did that impact the modern world? I've got a couple ideas, still things I'm rolling around, but yeah, you're right. Continuity is important, and there are a lot of different threads that you gotta have to hang on to and make sure it fits in the Spectrus book. I want to have fun with Ruxy. Spectrus and Sabanian is kind of a more horror, and Ruxy is going to be kind of more supernatural action,
So
a little
let's
lighter.
let's actually talk about that, because obviously with Spectrus, it has its own identity,
Yeah.
and it is very complicated, I think, and it's just what I think, whenever you spin something off of something else, because what happens if what you spun off fails? What happens if it messes up the main line? What happens if, all of a sudden, because this could also happen, is that Ruxy could take over and be more popular than the main line. And then it's like you could create 15 different problems. I mean, I don't know how much TV you watch, but SVU, Special Victims Unit, is kind of did that to Law and Order to some degree, where
Oh, okay.
it didn't destroy it, but it's more popular and was more popular than Law and Order. And I think it's a good thing to some degree, but it's very tricky when you do that, because now, and then even going further, you also want these two things to be divergent, but you want them to still be the same, and you want them to be able to stand on their own at the same time, but also know that they tie back in. And also having them tie back in every once in a while can be very, very helpful if necessary, because God forbid issue 4 needs a boost. I mean, you want the ability to tie in or at least cross promote or get an entry point back in. So what is that like? Because it's so complicated when you do spinoffs in any.
Yeah. Well, I really my goal is to bring a new crowd into Spectrus and Sabanian. I want the two to kind of play off each other. I want to grow Ruxy, but I want those Ruxy readers to also discover Spectrus and Sabanian. We're part of this shared universe. I should check out Spectrus and Sabanian and figure out what's going on there. And then same thing with I've got a really great loyal base of Spectrus and Sabanian fans. They backed my last 4 Kickstarters. They've been wonderful. So I'm offering them something maybe a little different. The covers the covers run a little risque. So I kind of
It's
maybe
a little bit more bad girl art. Might be a good word to use.
What's that?
A little bit more bad girl art.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping to draw in a crowd with that. I want to do someday I'll do a crossover. Who knows, what'll happen with that. But yeah, I've got a lot
Let's actually talk a little bit about Kickstarter strategy,
Hmm.
because I don't know, and I didn't look at your Spectrus, Kickstarters, but obviously this Ruxy stuff, it's definitely more bad girl, a little bit more top cow, a little bit also. I mean, one of my favorite colorists is Hi-Fi, and he does a lot of work for DC. He did a lot of the work on the Starfire by Amanda Connors. And he did a lot of the coloring, and his colors are just sort of really saturated, bright, fun colors. And as I view your covers in a lot of ways, is that a lot of them are fun, bright colored covers and saturated and kind of that vibe. And obviously right now on Kickstarter, at least the way I see it, is that there is a game being played with certain covers. There's a game being played where you need to have a bad girl cover. You need to have a nude cover. You need to have, limited print runs. To partially fund your book. I mean, your book still needs to be good. I'm not advocating having a shitty book, everybody. I want to make that crystal clear. You need to have something in your book still, but it's kind of like if you go shopping and then there's something that catches your eye at the store and it makes you stop. And that's what I feel Kickstarter is becoming to some degree, where it's still a place to get really good comics, but you need to make me stop. before I do something, because I'll scroll through or I see a cover on Instagram and I'm like, oh, that cover looks good. What is that book?
Yeah.
And so do you feel that with Spectrus, maybe it's a little bit harder to do that? Or maybe when you did issue 4, this wasn't the algorithm, this wasn't the game, and now this is the game. And with Ruxy, it just so happens that you launched and you kind of have to play the game if you want to fund. I mean, I hate to be so blunt about it, but that's what I'm seeing. And I haven't run a comic Kickstarter, but that's just what I'm seeing as a spectator.
No, I definitely hear you there. I mean, I've been really lucky and had great fans. So every launch I've done has been bigger than the previous one. So I did great covers for issue 4 of Spectrus and Sabanian. I think I had some eye-catching covers. I had some great artists. Ivan Tao, Mog Park, MR Gunn, Topper, Chris Enot. So I had great covers for issue 4, and I'm doing the same thing here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, covers are that pull. They're that snag that's going to get you. Hopefully you see a cool cover, and then you read my story, and that pulls you in even deeper. We got vampires in Prohibition era Chicago, and they're a different breed, and they're so yeah. But you're absolutely right. You gotta throw that bait out there, and sometimes it's got to be a sexy cover, and that's fine. I think they're fun. I think I've got some cute, more kind of anime cartoony covers, and I've got some intense covers too. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no. 'Cause that's just what I'm seeing, and I sell bad girl art, and I get it.
Yeah.
And legitly, I understand it, and my business is based off of that component, where my clientele doesn't even open up a book. They are legitly looking at the covers. They want covers, and they want massively exclusive covers.
Okay.
So they want a book that has 25, 50 print runs. Or as I stated, I just bought a whole 15 print run. They want those items. And that's what I think is very interesting right now. And I'm just curious from the whole industry is, what is everybody else's take? Because I'm on the opposite side where I'm obviously reselling, I'm retailing, and that's a very different position than a creator has to make. And I just find it fascinating because I see how the game is being played, and I'm not against the game being played. I'm just like, because I still think after you grab somebody with a cover, it works on issue 1. But if your book is bad, they might not come back for issue 2 unless you have the same level of covers or even better covers. But after a while, if your story is really bad, people are going to leave. And I think we're starting to see that, to be honest, in Kickstarter, is that I've noticed people who had a really good first and second issue, on their third issue, they dip. And it's because I feel the story isn't there, but the covers are. And that creates a real problem. And I think we're starting to see that occur. And I'm curious if you're seeing that or if it's just who I'm backing. Because it could very well be just I'm backing some interesting and weird people that maybe their issue 3 was just a flop or a fluke.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But I mean, there's some gorgeous cover art out there, and that's a big pull, definitely. But I mean, for Ruxy, story is always going to come first. I'm not going to be, there was one comic I backed that I liked the cover, and then I paged through it, and it was just kind of, it was a bit more, it was a bit much. It was a bit more risque than for my taste, But I mean, there's going to be, like you said, Ruxy's a bad girl. There's going to be, a little flirtiness. There's going to be some sex maybe, but nothing, there's not going to be any X rating or anything like that. It's still going to be mostly action. And, you're a big fan of TV. You ever watch like Warrior or Banshee or what are some of the other ones? Spartacus. Have you ever seen any of those shows?
I've seen some of it. Yeah.
Okay, it's a good mix of action and relationships, and there's some sex thrown in too, to keep it, keep it moving, So it's going to be kind of like that. There's going to be action, there's going to be character drama, and there's going to be a little bit of sex, But I'm not going to do a big uh, porn comic. That's just I can't do that. It's not going to happen.
Did you feel though that, because when I look at Ruxy, I look at it being very much PG-13, maybe 16 at the most. Like I don't have kids. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I would feel comfortable if I had a kid giving this book to my kid if he was 15, 16 years old. I wouldn't give it to my 12-year-old if I had a kid.
Oh, no.
Meaning that I don't think there's anything wrong with a little sex, a little this, a little that to a 16-year-old. Personally, I feel comfortable, when I'm 30, maybe when I'm 46, I'll have a different opinion. But yeah. I view this as kind of a PG-13, 16 and older type book, where I don't view it as, 21 and older.
Yeah, I think I'd go 18. There's some swearing in it. There's some profanity. It's funny. I'll be at my table at a show, and I'll be talking with their kids come up, and the parents are there, and I'm like, well, this might not be, it's violent, They're like, oh, well, that's fine. Oh, it's fine. It's violence, whatever. And I was like, well, there's some swearing too. And then they say, oh no, not for my kid, So, whatever. But I would recommend 18 on this. I don't want any parents coming after me, So yeah, that's going to go on the cover. That's going to be a stamp on there, mature audiences only. So
fair enough. But the reason why I asked this is because obviously, I mean, maybe I'm 30 and, my friends, they have a younger sister and she was learning some weird stuff. And on the bus, their conversations were very different than when I was growing up.
Okay.
And she's like 10 years younger. So she's going to school and she's hearing words that me and my friends didn't hear till we were like 12. And she's like 12 at the time. And we're like, wait a second, like what just happened? And so it's very interesting how things have shifted. I mean, I'll be very honest, the word fuck, for lack of a better word, has become less and less meaningful in America in the last 20 years. In which that 15 years ago, if you said that at your job, it's like, he just said it. And now the boss is like, why are they fucking not doing this? and it's like, nobody turns ahead, and it's kind of funny. So that's why it's really interesting about this. That's why I say, and what I've seen of it, I'm like, to me, this seems tame. Well,
it's funny you mentioned that. I saw in I think I was on Instagram or something. There was a video because in PG-13 movies now you can do one fuck. You can do one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie. So the two hobbits, Merry and Pippin, the actors were talking with each other and they said, well, in America, we could have gotten away with one fuck in the Lord of the Rings, So they were, of course, fool of a fuck, dumb fuck took, when they were in the mines of Moria. So they were just debating on when they would have thrown in that F-bomb in Lord of the Rings. It was hilarious. So yeah, but yeah, no, you're right. The F word, it's not what it used to be.
It's funny. It's funny in which that like that's where this is so confusing right now with every single comic out there, is that I don't know anymore what is PG-13, what is 16, what is an 18 book.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have a topless cover, that is gray. That's not gray. That's black and white for sure. Meaning that you really should not put a topless cover unless it's covered up on your table, unless it's after hours or it's an over 18 and up con. But if you have a girl in a bikini, I mean, I think 20 years ago, that was a little more risque, and now it's like, oh, it's just a girl in a bikini.
Yeah.
Like, this is just like anything else. It's actually more shocking if you have a guy topless with his shirt off on your comic cover than a girl in a bikini, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, with the internet, you can see anything you want now. So yeah, it's kind of it's not as not as big of a deal anymore. Nudity, it's you can see it whenever you want to. So it's uh, yeah, yeah. But I think what's great for comics is that you can find an artist that makes nudity, so much more interesting or colorful or sleek or something like that. So or fun. Honestly, I've got the Psycho-san cover is probably one of my favorites, and it's just fun. It's new. There's
Yeah.
a nude version.
Let's actually talk about some of these covers, and obviously I'm going to show pictures. So I think this is cover A,
Yeah,
and I think there's like three versions of this cover. I think there's the Prohibition version, and then I think there's this Speakeasy version of it too. I think the Prohibition is nuder, and then I don't know what the Speakeasy version looks like, but
there's well, this is the Mog's cover. She's the interior artist. She's got a risque version of that one. It's like this one is blue, which is cooler, and then the other one is in red and orange, so it's hot. She's topless and got some swords and
let's actually talk about that too, because you know who Steph Wilson is, right?
yeah, yeah,
So one of the things that I love about Steph Wilson is that if you go through a bunch of his covers, he'll have a regular cover and then he'll have a nude cover. And he'll make the nude cover where, let's say there's one bat looking and it's kind of sleeping, and then the girl's nude and her top's off. There's 15 bats with their eyes wide open. And it makes it a lot more fun.
yeah.
So I don't think it requires all that much more work. And it's not just a patch and making her topless. So what was that like for you, having it obviously be cooler and blue with her clothes on, and when it's a little bit more risque, it's obviously red and orange in the background, signaling kind of something's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's a draw to buy it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's I like Mog's very her approach. She's done some just the gorgeous tarot card covers for Spectrus and Sabanian, and this is really her style. I think she's very much into the watercolors and things like that. So she's going she's kind of really playing on the hot and cold idea with the cover. So in the blue cover you just showed there, she's very chill but in the red cover, her eyes are open and red, and she's snarling, and you see the fangs, and she's got the swords, and so yeah, it's and I think Mog, I mean, she wants to have fun too, she wants to get in on the risque piece, she's not shy, so I think for a lot of artists, the chance to do some risque stuff is fun, honestly, or it's just if you have an appreciation for anatomy and the human body, and you don't always get to do that. Same with Matt M.R. Gunn. He does some gorgeous. His stuff is just beautiful. He did a Spectrus cover for me on my last Kickstarter, and he did that classic Ruxy reclining on a piece of furniture, and
Is it this one?
yes, and that's. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's just gorgeous to begin with. But then you do the risque version, and it's beautiful as well. And yeah, she's got that stripe of red in her hair. I kind of wanted to play. I didn't want her to be too much like Vampirella. I was really afraid I would draw some illusion. Oh, he's doing Vampirella. So I put that red stripe in her hair, and when she bites somebody, her hair goes completely blood red. So I kind of wanted to.
So let's actually talk about that, because obviously I've spoken to a lot of people, and again, I haven't booked anything in comics. I haven't booked a cover. But there is an idea of direction when you book something,
Mm.
where I don't think staying and hiring an artist is, hey, yeah, go do whatever you want. Here's $500 for a cover,
Yeah.
have fun and go at it. I think that if you're running a good comic business, and I use the word good loosely, or professional might be a better word, or you're running it like a business, however you want to define it is up to you, everybody. But I think art direction is king and key. And I think you have to give who you're working with some idea of what you want. Because I think if you don't, you're just going to get a piece and they're interpreting what they want to do. And so, what is that like to kind of give direction to anybody who does a cover for you and say, hey, I kind of want to like this, but I need it to look like this? Because, in my opinion, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, every cover has a job
Yeah.
on your campaign, or it should have a job, and that is to attract maybe 10 buyers over here who would normally not come to this campaign. Or this cover is supposed to attract 100 people and it's supposed to be the main breadwinner. And then this cover over here is to provide an alternative for the person who likes so and so, but they're sick of so and so because they have already 15 of their covers and
Yeah.
it's enough. And I mean, and I say that the way I say it, not to be mean, but what is that like? Because art direction is king, I feel.
Yes, and also it depends a lot. Um, some artists, I have a, like Psycho Sans cover. I gave him a very this is what I want. I want something prohibition. I want barrels with booze. Right. I want barrels with gunshot and booze leaking out of them. I want it to be fun and cute, and he ran with it, and just I love this cover. So that one I provided quite a bit of direction on. Now Mog, I've been working with Mog now for years, and honestly, I just let her do what she wanted to do. Like for her, because I've got a working relationship with her, and I know how she does covers. I know what she does. For Spectrus and Sabanian, pretty much the only direction I provide is she's done a different tarot card for every issue. And I do a little research on tarot cards, and I say, well, this issue is very much about judgment, or this issue is about chaos and destruction. So she did the judgment card on number 4. On number 3, she did the tower, which is the kind of a disastrous tarot card. Number 2, she did strength, and she's going to do a number 1 issue for me here in the near future as well. So it depends on your relationship with the artist. I felt very comfortable saying, yeah, Mog, do whatever you want. I want a cover, I want an original cover, and I want a risque cover. Those were my only requirements. Like Matt M.R. Gunn, who's one you had up there earlier. He did a gorgeous, he does gorgeous women, and I just asked him, I need a classic Prohibition era shot, and he provided that. And yeah, so you're right. In some cases, I provide direction. I said, this is what I need that cover to do. But if the more comfortable you are with that artist, probably the less direction you need to provide them, and they will still give you what you want. So yeah, there's a bit of give and take there.
And obviously there's this one right here.
Yeah, that's Topper. Now there's 3 in this series. Each one gets progressively more risque. But he's kind of that classic look, and the colors there are by Wesley Wong. He's done a few DC books, and I love how the headlights just really glare at you. It's perfect. But Topper really wanted to do a kind of a Bonnie and Clyde type cover, of course with Ruxy, and then Clyde is dead. Clyde's been bitten. So yeah, he likes it. He's a kind of an older school guy. He kind of likes the classic stuff. He's a big Frazetta fan, and so yeah, that influences his stuff quite a bit. And he and I have worked together. He's my interior artist for Spectrus and Sabanian, so we've worked together for years.
And then there's this one as well.
Yes, that's Cesara. This is Louis Bravo, and yeah, I just gave him. I want to oppose. I want to have a Tommy gun. I want to have the lantern that she carries. It's part of her character, and yeah, she's got to be missing that eye. But otherwise, beyond that, it's got to be a Chicago scene. He kind of ran with it. I gave him the leeway to pick the scene and what he wanted to do. But yeah, I love the crows in the background too. That's awesome. And that one also has two other risque versions, a lingerie version and a full nude version. So
what is that like? Because I'm a big Zenesco fan, and with a bunch of books, they have a regular version, a risque version, and then / lingerie version, and then they have full nude topless. They don't do full nude books, but they do topless books.
yeah,
And it goes 25, 50, 100 as far as prices go. And it provides a lot of options, and it's, I think, great. And I think it works to some degree when you do have that, because maybe somebody doesn't want to fully commit.
Right, right. And this is my first. I'm not. I hope my fans, maybe
Get
some
it?
of them won't be into that. I don't know. It worries me, to be honest. But
Let's actually talk about that, because this is one of the things that obviously I speak to people, and being somebody who looks at finance, looks at risk, takes risks, avoids risks. Um, and I've done really well, and I have been hurt, and I've taken some L's heavy. But what is that like? Because I feel in comics right now, there is an issue of taking risk. And I feel like people are saying, look, I don't want to change because I know this works, and I know it's going to make me 10,000 on my campaign. And sure, I might be able to do 15, but I don't want to spend $2,000 that I might not be able to recover, or it's a long road out.
yeah,
And I think it's really complicated because I don't think you've ever done 3 covers and them getting progressive. And so and I don't think that's a huge risk, because it's not like you bought 3 different covers getting progressive.
right,
It's the same cover with some variations, which is a little bit different than doing 3 separate covers, raising the bar in addition to your base number of covers that you were going to do. But even still, it is risky, because you still got to print a bunch of these books, and also it can be a failure of an idea. Like and I'm not saying for whatever reason it could just not work, but it is a risk. And so, what is that like? Because this is your money; it's not a corporation's money.
yeah. You're right. This is not cheap to do. Exactly. It is risky, and it is a little scary, because honestly, Spectrus and Sabanian, I've had success with that. My fans have been fantastic. They've backed me for 4 issues. Each launch has gotten a little better, a little bigger. But now I'm spinning off. I'm doing something different, and my protagonist Spectrus. I mean, she's beautiful. She's tough. She's a warrior. But you don't get to see her topless. That doesn't fit in that story. I don't think you'll ever see Spectrus topless. That's not the kind of hero she is. But so I worry that my fans who are following that kind of hero, and it's very much a horror kind of book, a horror hero story. I guess I could call it like a Constantine, or maybe even a dash of Doctor Strange in there. But now I'm doing something a little more, over here, which is pretty outside that realm, So I am taking a risk. I do worry that it might turn off some of my fans. I hope it won't. But
you also feel that you're also taking a risk, even doing, covers of, per book, some of them 3 sets as well, because when you do go and you open it up, at least this is my understanding, is that you have to do minimum print orders. You have to also, and so naturally, if 10 people pick up, and we'll use this. So if 10 people pick up, if let's say 50 people pick up the cover A on this, let's call this 3A or 4A, whatever it is, for argument's sake. and 50 people pick up cover A, 30 people pick up cover B, but only 10 people pick up the full nude set, you still have to order a certain amount on that full nude, where you're not taking a hit on the first two per se, but you're going to have to order a minimum print number. And I don't think that you're going to burn those 15, where you're going to have them at your table. They will eventually sell, but it's still, I would imagine, on an economic level, nerve-wracking, where what happens is somebody only picks up 3.
Yeah.
Like, because now you have merch that will sell eventually.
Yeah.
And obviously at a con, you could throw it on an add-on in another campaign per se, but it's still sitting around. And I have a different way how I view merch. I view merch as debt in my business.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a whole different conversation about business and how you want to structure it, taxation, a lot of things, you know, and I'm not your CPA, I'm not your lawyer, anybody, but so go speak to a professional. But it is nerve-wracking when you take on debt or merch equivalents or cash equivalents that didn't sell. I mean, it can be very stressful. There's a reason why my hair is going gray, guys. There's a reason why. Because I've done this. And I can't imagine what it's like even before you're printing this. You're like, somebody only ordered one of these. I gotta print 25 of them. Like,
yeah, you're right. That's a finer point that I'm probably learning the hard way.
But I'm going to stop you, because let's say you sell 100 of each of these covers. You're like, oh, that was easy.
Well, yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. I kind of made this Kickstarter based on other Kickstarters that I've seen that have been successful. You know, I've seen, and you know, I've had great artists that have given me, you know, without me asking, and there were only 3. Honestly, there's only 3 covers that have 3 versions. So all the others are just 2. So so that's not too bad. But yeah, I based this launch on kind of a conglomerate of other risque launches that I've seen. So yeah, I'm basically dipping a toe in the water and seeing what happens. But yeah, it might be, like you say, it might be a hard lesson learned, or it might be very successful. We'll see.
Or it could be that you have to order 25 and you sell 20 of them, and great, you're stuck with 5 at your table. But it could be somewhere in the middle, or it could be that somebody ordered 30, and once you get past that 25 mark, no company cares if it's 27, 28, or if it's 30, or they only care your minimum. And obviously, I haven't done this, but it's something that I'm well aware of. And I think a lot of creators don't understand, when you're doing a limited 25 or you're doing a limited 50, it gets complicated too. Because if you could print 300 copies of your book or 500 copies of your book, you know, there are ways how to get it down cheaper. And that's the whole thing, because printing is very complicated. Mm-hmm. And I am no expert. I had a sponsor. I had Mixum as a sponsor about 1.5 years ago. And I learned a lot about printing, not because I wanted to, but because they were a sponsor. So, and I don't know anything. I mean, I know a good amount. I'm not saying I know everything. I don't nearly enough. If I was to say that I was 10% educated, I'd be very generous to myself. Very generous. But that's 10% more than I knew before. But I digress. I do want to look at this cover though. So this is a fun one.
Yeah, that's a guy I found on Instagram. He does these very kind of cute nude pieces of art, and he has fun with them. You can tell. I mean, this is a blast. This little cartoony topless cover here. Yeah, his name's it's Holy Bones. He's on Instagram, and I thought, hey, let's do something kind of cartoony and fun. You know, maybe for my female backers, I think would like that a little bit more, because it's kind of, you know, fun, kind of different. If a woman wanted to get a topless cover, that's probably what she'd go with. But I don't want to speak for women, so Yeah, isn't that cool? That's I've seen her stuff around like on Tumblr and things like that. That's Anolia Nova, and I found her on ArtStation, and she does some gorgeous like fantasy uh, renditions. I mean, it's isn't that awesome? That's probably my favorite Cesara right there. Yeah, yeah, with the eye patch and the bob.
And then there's this one too, which is also a lot of fun and colorful, and it's very, very Chicago.
Isn't it? Yeah, and it's like you said, the colors just are very striking, and that's Hedwin Zaldivar. You see him; that guy works like a lot because you see his covers everywhere. I guarantee, probably right now on Kickstarter, he's probably got at least 3 covers going in different Kickstarters right now. But yeah, really cool guy. He did like 5 versions for me, so I've got he's got like this one, a lingerie version, a lingerie topless version, and a full nude version. But I only went with 3 of those, so those are also available. Yeah, yeah. But I love the hair, the big swoosh of hair. It's awesome. Yeah.
No, I mean it would look great in a foil. It would look great in a foil.
Yes, yes, it would. Yeah, yeah.
A spot foil would look sick.
Okay.
So a spot foil, and if you did a spot foil on kind of the explosion at the bottom, right? And then you did it on the wheel of the car.
Okay.
That would look sick. That would just look so sick.
Yeah. It's okay.
And then because it would focus it down the whole viewpoint, and the whole vantage point would then change how the car would be seen. It'd be sick. It'd be dope. It'd be just fantastic. I love it. It's a great cover. It's a great.
Thank you. I might use that. I'm gonna touch base with my printer on that. I gotta because I asked him. I always ask him to give me an opinion. Hey, what do you think would work best with these covers? Because I do always at least one like numbered series, like 1 through 20 or 1 through 15, and but yeah, that's probably gonna be one of my options. Yeah.
Spot foil on that thing would look cool, or the whole thing foiled would look awesome. But like in a gold foil, like not like a silver or chrome foil, but like you gotta go like a gold foil on that. Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Is all I'm gonna say. And then obviously a lot of this stuff, as you said, is available in a topless version, a lingerie version. There's some other stuff I think out there. I think you have some original art and some original commission stuff. I think might also. I'm not exactly sure what art it's from, but I know you have something from Down the Rabbit Hole and then some other stuff. And I don't think it's ultra expensive, all things considering.
No, it's Mog's artwork. She and I, she did that. She's releasing it for the Kickstarter. I think those 2 pieces are each $600. But she's also doing cover sketches and remarks. So yeah, those are also available. The cover sketches are available just for a limited time. I think those are going to start tomorrow and go for like 10 days. So those haven't hit yet.
And then let's actually talk about that too, because again, obviously Kickstarter is a game. I really think it is a game. I think a lot of things are games in comics right now. That's not good or bad. And I say this where I think having rewards for a limited amount of time, I think having early bird specials is good. I think having rewards for a limited amount of time. I also think taking off covers on a Kickstarter is actually really cool. I like the concept that, hey, this cover is only available for a week. And then once it's sold out, it's sold out. So if you want it, buy it. And then you add something to replace it. Mount Olympus does a really good job doing that.
Okay.
Where they run a campaign for 3 or 4 weeks. And for the first 3 weeks, you have a cover for 7 days, and then they take it down. They have a different one up, and then they take it down, and then they have a third one. So you can add on to your thing, but if you can't add on week 1 and week 2.
Right.
And I think it's smart. And I think, obviously you want to keep a Kickstarter fresh, and I'm curious what you think, because I've heard it both ways about that. And I personally like when Kickstarters update and change things around and make me want to come back and say, cool, what's going on in day 15?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be adding, like I said, the sketch covers are going to be coming up here soon. We're going to add one more cover. Uh, I've got an artist, kind of in the wings. As long as he pulls through, he's got some personal stuff going on. So maybe not, he'll be available. And we're going to offer some other tiers, maybe get drawn into issue 2 as a tier available. So if somebody wants to see their happy face inside the next issue, we might offer that as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun. They're going to be stretch goals, new things added. So yeah, we got to keep it fresh. Definitely. That's how Kickstarter works.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, but I've heard it the other way too. So, and again, I ran one Kickstarter and it was extraordinarily painful, and I learned the hard way. A lot
They're
of things.
stressful. They really are. Yeah.
It was not fun, and yeah. A lot of drinking happened in January. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's tough. It's not easy, but it's very once you get it, once you figure it out and get it moving, it's satisfying once you get it happening.
I mean, I funded, but it was painful, and if I'm to come back and do something else, I have a better idea on how I would do it. I'm also gonna pick and choose when I'm gonna do it. I'm also gonna understand that it is just round 1. It is not round 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm gonna take a very different approach where I'm viewing it as a seed round as an investor versus as the be all end all. And so it's just a different position. But I do want to back out of this, and I do want to talk about actually the health of the comic industry, because you have friends in comics, I have friends in comics. I run a business that is centered around collectibles and comics. Obviously, I think everybody here is aligned in some fashion in comics. A lot of my viewers are as well. And I've noticed a lot of stuff happening in this industry right now. I've noticed a lot of people struggling on Kickstarter. I've noticed a lot of people being successful. I've also noticed people getting an all-time high, and then slowly that high has been slowly pulled back. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think that there is more competition in comics and in media right now. And I don't think comics is competition is comics. I think it is video games. I think it is television. I think it is movies. I think it is going out to the bar or going out to eat. I think there's sports on. I mean, football is on every Sunday. And I can tell you one thing that I'm not doing on Sundays, and that's reading comics. So, and obviously money is also tightening up right now because I think there's a lot of fear in the economy. And I'm curious what you see, because I see that from the business side. I see it as a spectator. I see it as an interviewer, but I'm curious how you see it and if I'm missing something completely because you're in the pit versus me looking into the pit.
Well, it's tough. As far as comics as on the whole, I'm not sure. You would know a lot more about that, the big four and what sells and what doesn't. But from my perspective,
I don't buy the big four.
Oh, you go all indie?
I'm relatively small press.
Okay.
So I buy a lot of Mount Olympus. I buy Big Dog Inc. I really enjoy Merc Mag. And then I'm buying things like Flesh Eat Zombie.
Okay.
Or Bad Donut. I'm buying things off of, other smaller press. I don't think Mount Olympus is a big four. I think they are small press by definition. I mean, they have limited 65 print runs on a book. I mean, it's a $20, $25 book. And I consider Zenescope not to be a big four either, but I consider them to be kind of in the upper echelon.
Okay.
I think is a fair way how to put it, where I don't think that they're Marvel or DC or Image. Who's the fourth?
Dark Horse.
Yeah, like I consider Zenescope to be a step below IDW as far as size.
Okay.
I consider Zenescope and Titan to be equals doesn't mean there's not money to be made in any of these companies. But I don't consider Zenescope to be the equivalent of DC. But I'm buying a lot of small press.
Okay.
The money in small press is actually bigger. So a small press book, it will get me 32 to 40% in profit versus saying a DC book might get me 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Wow.
So I mean, I look at people's Kickstarters. I can make more money in small press. And look. Obviously, there are the ones in Marvel. There are the ones in DC. There are books. Just there's always the book.
Right.
There's no question about it. Like a Will Jack Supergirl book that just came out is a good book to have.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
50. It's an $80 thing. I'll make a clean $15 very easily. But that's also a variant. That's not action number 1157 came out. That's the book you gotta buy. I mean, I haven't bought a DC Marvel book probably in 2-3 years.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's fascinating. I had no idea that the small press was really had that much potential. That's really cool.
It's fascinating. And indie books, same thing. I mean, Zombie Eats Flesh. I mean, they did Beowulf. That book was funded on Kickstarter, and some of those books trade for like 100, 120 a pop.
Wow.
I mean, and we were talking about a $20 book going for 120. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. Wow.
And then they run deals where it's buy one, get one free. And I'm like, oh boy. Everybody's getting a discount today.
Yeah.
Book trades for 120 bucks, $60 sounds really good for my buyers.
Yeah, that's wow. That's so cool. I had no idea that that small press had that much potential.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and it's crazy. I mean, but like this is why I'm so curious, because I know plenty of creators who have great concepts and they're killing it, and they'll do 15K, but the year before on their book they were doing 20.
Okay.
And 15K is nothing to balk at. If you did 15K in this book, you'd be beyond happy, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
I mean, if you do 10,000, you'll be beyond thrilled. You are not. Let's put it this way: if you did 6, because I think that's your goal, you'd be happy. If you did 8, you'd be excited. If you did 10,000, you'd be happier than a pig rolling in shit. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. I don't view that I view $6,000 as success. 8 is excitement, and then so if you needed 10,000, you did 5,000 over your goal. That's great, and that's beyond success. But if you were doing 20,000 the year before, like that's where I'm so confused as a spectator, because I'm like, this book is on par with what you did before. What happened between this year and that year? Or you did 40,000 on one book and then the sequel did only 30. Was your first book the really good, or was it really bad that when you did this book people said no thank you? I mean, this is or is it that there's just so much competition, or is it that people don't have money? I mean, right now money's tight in my world because I just went through a business expansion, so all of a sudden I'm not backing people's projects. It's not because they're not good, but because money's tight and the holidays are coming up.
Right.
So I'm just curious what you think, because it's the most confusing part in my world is that I don't know why it's not there's that.
Well, I'm still getting there. I'm still pretty new, honestly. I've done 4 launches, and my last one did 7K, which was good. You know, that's the best I've done so far. I'm on track to do the same with this one, hopefully a little bit more. But yeah, you're right. 10K, 12K would be awesome for me.
But it would be different if you did. Let's say you did 12K this one, and then you released issue. You did Spectrus, number 5, and you did 8K. So you went from doing 12 down to 8, and then the next one you did 7. I mean, there's something wrong with this.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if those things are inside my control or not, uh, my launches have all been getting sequentially better, more money each time. So my fingers crossed that this will bring in. This will be my first 5-figure Kickstarter. That's the goal, and then that expansion then builds on my Spectrus and Sabanian crowd, and then maybe that next launch will also be 10K. But you're right. People maybe don't have as much money right now. Maybe they don't have as much free time.
Do you think? Oh yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, it's no, it's hard. It's just hard to tell. I at least want to keep creating until I can get my first Spectrus and Sabanian trade paperback done, which would be issue 6.
Do you also think that there is an issue of expectation going on as well? Meaning that I think that sometimes people say, I want to do comics full time. And that I feel that sometimes some of these people who might be struggling are trying to produce 20 books a year. And maybe you're better off producing 6 or 7 and maybe going slower and putting more time and not pumping out a Kickstarter every month. Because maybe that's also part of the problem, is that if you're Joe, whatever, and you're pumping out a book every single month, how much time are you really spending marketing your campaign? How much time are you really putting in the effort in developing it? And how much are you managing your baby? I mean, I think personally, and people might disagree, I think 4 or 5 books a year is more than enough if you're an indie creator. I think.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you're launching on Kickstarter. I mean, the nature of Kickstarter is that maybe if you're lucky, you can get 4, if you're a real hard charger, you can get 4 or 5 issues in a year. For me, I would be happy with probably 3 next year. So this year I'll finish up. I'll do Ruxy number 1. Next year it'll be Spectrus number 5, Ruxy number 2, and Spectrus 6. I mean, that's my goal. I think that's attainable, but that's like you say, that's a lot of work and that's a lot of money. I write, so I got to pay for all the art that I get. So
I also think, and this is just my take, is that, so let's say I come across you. Sometimes I might say, look, I like you as a person. I like where you're going with this. Your book is okay. And not saying it is, not saying I'm not, but
right. No, I gotcha. Yeah.
But all of a sudden what happens is that I say, I want to back Kurt because I want to back Kurt, not so much the project. I've done that with plenty of people where I didn't like something they did. And I said, I like the person. I kind of like their concept. I know that they have 3 or 4 things in the works, or they have 2 books. And I know if I back this thing, it's going to help that thing later on. And I know that, okay, it's an average story. They got a few good covers, but I want to back the person. But if you're pumping something out every single month, you're going to bankrupt me quicker than ever. But if you're doing it every quarter, I can put that into my budget of my expense and say, cool, in March he's doing something, in June he's doing something, in September he's doing something, and in November he's doing something.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm now not bankrupted from you. I don't mean to put Pat on the chopping block, but Pat's releasing a book every 6 weeks. After a while, this is how you bankrupt somebody. Somebody says, look, I don't have money this round.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, what happens when half your readership doesn't have money that round, and then you're coming off of doing 100,000 and now you're doing 42?
Right.
That's a big drop off. I mean, and that's kind of what happened. And I love Pat Chand. I love Pat. But I think it's the idea that, I think what happened with Private Dancer versus Cheeky is, I think that's exactly what happened, is that it just so happened that it was a weird launch where people just didn't have money. When he launched that, and I think you're pumping out so much content that all of a sudden you're like, this looks good. It's Pat Chand. He's a good writer. He does great work. And then the next good thing, they're like, oh, well, I don't have money. I just bought this other thing you did. And then all of a sudden you take what, 58% drop? I mean, and I hate to put him on the chopping block, but I think that's what happens. And that's just my thoughts. And I think that if all of a sudden Pat was doing 8 instead of 12 or 16, or you even doing 10, I
Mhm.
think some of that might not have happened. And it sounds weird, but I think you would have made more money by doing less.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said, especially launching on Kickstarter. I mean, it's an event, and you're going to pay more obviously for a single issue on Kickstarter than you are going to the comic book shop and buying a a $5 or $6 issue. I mean, that's just the way it
I
works.
agree. I think it is a finance problem where I think everybody thinks of this differently than I do. I just bought a bunch of comics and
Mhm.
I figured out how to finance it debt free. So I figured out the financing first on how to
Okay.
buy the equivalents of almost 50 grand worth of comics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I didn't buy 50 grand worth of comics. That's what it's worth.
Okay.
50 grand worth of comics is not worth it. You don't spend 50 grand to buy 50 grand worth of comics. You should spend a lot less, especially if you know what you're doing. But you still have to.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I spent 5 figures. So let's go that on that. But I had to figure out how to finance it. I had to figure out how to finance it over time because it wasn't a money problem. It was a finance problem.
Okay.
And so if you're running every 10 weeks, your backer can finance backing you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because every 10 weeks is 5 payments in a year.
Mm.
If you're running every month, that's 12 payments. And that means that they get 2 paychecks in between, but they're still waiting for your book.
Right.
Versus if you're doing it over 5, that means that is the equivalent of 5 paychecks between. And it sounds weird, but when you start breaking it down that way, most people in America get paid every 2 weeks. And so now all of a sudden, if I have 5 paychecks to back your book and I know it's coming, I can plan accordingly. But when it's 2 paychecks, it's very different.
Interesting. Yeah. 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 No, that makes sense. I myself won't have that problem because I don't have that level of output. So for me, this I work full time. This is a cool side gig that I enjoy. But yeah, no, I won't be putting out 10 issues next year. Three or four at the maximum, which would, even that's a lot. But and there are things that happen. You're working with artists; they have I have things going on, artists have things going on, and so I can't always, the poor guys that did the graphics for my, I kind of was at the wire, down to the wire here when they were doing the graphics for my Kickstarter page. So, so yeah, things happen. You work full time. You can't. I won't have that level of output. If I do 3 books next year, I will be very happy with that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And that's makes sense. I mean, honestly, if I did 2 books at my height, I'd be thrilled. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know if I will ever do $150,000 worth of business in my eBay business because the level of output that is required for that is insane.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty time intensive, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It's not as bad as people think.
Okay.
It's not as bad as people think. Also, when you have buyers who are buying, $900 worth of comics and it's going to the same address all at the same time, it's a lot easier than somebody's buying a $5 card.
Yeah.
But much different because if somebody is spending, and 900 is an exaggeration. I have buyers who spend $400 or $500 in a single go. Those orders are not as time expensive as somebody who's buying a $35 baseball card. The $35 baseball card is actually more expensive for me to ship out than 20 comics is.
Okay.
Not because the 20 comics are more expensive in shipping, they're more expensive than the baseball card. The baseball card goes in an envelope, you throw 90 cents of stamps on it, and you're good to go.
Right.
The buyer pays like $3 shipping, and I make money on the shipping and the card. It's great. But the reason why it's expensive is that you still got to print out a label, and it takes about 2 minutes less to pack that up than to pack up 20 comics.
Okay.
But the value of the 20 comics is $500. $35 is over here. So if you actually divide, if it takes me 10 minutes to pack up 20 comics, but it's a $500 order, that essentially means that per minute, that order is worth more in the packing side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is versus if
you do have a head for numbers.
Yeah, well, when you put a dollar sign in front of it, it adds up really quickly.
That always helps. Yeah.
But like that's my whole point, is that it is much cheaper on a time level when 20 books are going to the same destination versus one item, is even though that item costs 90 cents to ship and 20 comics will cost me $30 because you have to insure it. And insurance is your best friend. It's your best friend.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Anything you ship to New Jersey, you insure it. That is the rule of America.
Wow.
New Jersey is a corrupt little state, and I've had more packages lost in New Jersey. And when I ship to New Jersey, I insure it, and you know what happens? They deliver it in hand.
Okay.
To my buyer.
I mean, I've been lucky. Fingers crossed. I've been lucky. I haven't had anything returned for damage or loss yet. So, lucky so far.
You ship to Utah? You ship to Utah and Wyoming? Cleanest shipping ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. It arrives so quick, so clean, and perfect. Like, you ship to New Jersey? God bless you. God bless you. And I live in Connecticut, and I ship to every single state except like 3. And New Jersey is the worst. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody in New Jersey, but they will tell you themselves that their post office is incompetent.
Oh man.
It's full of corruption. And you insure it because when it's insured, they put a label on it saying this is insured. Don't fuck it up, New Jersey.
That's classic. That shouldn't be that way. That sucks. But yeah, New Jersey, get your act together.
Insurance is like $3. For $3, if I sleep in New Jersey,
that's totally worth it then. Definitely.
I sleep at night like a baby. That's the only advice I have for anybody on Kickstarter is you will lose money in New Jersey, but you will sleep like a baby. That's all true. I have to say about New Jersey. Everything else about New Jersey is great. Everything else is great about New Jersey. Their post office is corrupt.
Post office needs a little work.
If I ever become governor of New Jersey, that's the first agenda. Executive orders we're rehauling the post office.
Shape up that post office, yeah.
The federal government can. I will personally handle it if I ever to move to New Jersey. That will be what I will run on. It will be great. I mean, nothing else will get accomplished in my run as governor of New Jersey.
Yeah, it's Jersey.
But the post office and your comics will be delivered safe and sound. But awesome. I have no intention of moving to New Jersey anytime soon.
Never been. So I don't know.
Don't worry. It's small. It's a small little thing. They have a few good things in them. And the only thing you need to know about New Jersey is that if you cut it in half, depending on which side of the half you're on, you better not wear the wrong football jersey in that side.
Yeah.
Because half of it is Philly.
Okay.
And the other half is New York.
Oh, okay. So they're figuring it there, huh?
If you go into northern New Jersey, it might actually be southern New Jersey. I forget which is closer to Philly. But whatever's closer to Philly is Eagles fans.
Okay.
And if you're northern, closer to New York and Connecticut, it's Giants and Jets fans.
Okay.
So if you go to a bar and I forget which one it is because my New Jersey geography is messed up, but I was at an anime con and it was Philly territory.
Okay.
So they had like Eagles flags and I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like I didn't even realize it. And I'm like, oh snap, we're in Philly's territory here. We're not in New York anymore. I don't feel comfortable as a Giants fan anymore. I had to be quiet about football for that entire anime con. It's a very great experience.
How do they think about Packer fans out there? I don't know.
I don't think they care. I mean, They're like cheeseheads. That's fine. You just can't wear a Giants jersey in that area because
It's dangerous.
very, very, very. It's like wearing a Boston Red Sox hat in Yankee Stadium.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't. I watch the occasional Packer game. I'm not a big sports guy, but I still got to root for the Packers.
I have a gambling problem.
Oh, that's perfect then. I might have to pick your brain about gambling problems. So I keep it real for Ruxy. Yeah, she likes the horses though.
I'm actually technically I'm even technically. I'm actually above more than even, but I've had a few bad losses recently, and I don't want to talk about them. The 49ers did not do their job last Sunday. The last Sunday game they played in Monday Night Football, they just did not do their job well.
Okay.
And I'm very disappointed in Brock Purdy. And me and him are going to have a discussion. I'm going to walk right into the locker room, and I'm going to have to say, guys, we're not in the gold rush anymore. This is your one and only opportunity. Your team is called the 49ers. You should be throwing golden touchdowns.
Right.
What's the problem? It was disappointing, and it was very painful.
Ooh.
It cost me like $12. I was very devastated.
Oh. You'll be all right.
I cried for like a week.
You'll be okay, though.
I'm still getting over it. It's a problem. I'm going to be going to therapy for like years because of this. But anyway, I don't want to keep you any longer than I do, but I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, figure out how to back your Kickstarter?
Yeah,
all that stuff is important.
Well, you can just go into Kickstarter. You can search for Ruxy Vampire. I'll put a link in the chat here.
It's in the description. It's in the description because I'm a professional.
Okay.
You can put it in. You can put it in the chat too. That I encourage that.
Okay, I'm not sure. Let's see here. I did, but it says comment has failed to post, so I'm not sure what I did wrong.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
But yeah, you can just search Ruxy Vampire on Kickstarter. You'll definitely find it. Here, I'll put it in the private chat too.
Yeah, I could put it in. I could absolutely put it in to the chat for all those who want it. Are seeing this and seeing it again on replay. It is in the description up above as well, or down below, depending on where you're at. It's a first link, so feel free to click it. It will bring you right to the Kickstarter.
Nice. All right. Yeah. I mean, check it out. People will like it. If you're into the risque, great. If not, that's okay too. It's still an action-packed supernatural story. I'm playing with vampires, the vampire myths. There are some other creatures of supernatural origin in there. There's Tommy guns. There's gangsters. There's a lot. There's a gangster slang in it too. For me, that's always been fun watching the gangster movies and hearing all the slang from that time period. So good times.
And then as far as I'm concerned and everything that I do, obviously I have been encouraging this for almost 4 years, going on 5. You have to support indie. And what that means is when people have Kickstarters out there or projects or crowdfunders, or they just release a book online, you should go out and pick up that book because it is very, very, very important to go and do that. And it does make a huge difference when you go do that. And if the book is not your cup of tea, sharing it out is beyond helpful in a lot of ways. So go do that, as well as follow people on social media is incredibly helpful as well. So I am definitely encouraging people to do that. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X. I am Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram. I am Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay. So if you're looking for rare books and really cool books, I'm always adding a lot of cool stuff up there. And I got some other stuff coming, and I got a few more announcements probably in 3 weeks of what I'm going to be doing mostly on my Friday nights, which I'm very excited about, but I can't really talk about it yet. But no, it's nothing illegal. It's nothing illegal. It's perfectly legal. I promise you. And we're gonna have a grand old time with it, everybody. It's gonna be a good time. And then obviously on YouTube, I am Pop Anime Comics. So that's where you can find me. Check out my YouTube channel. I got 1,200, 1,300 plus videos now. A lot of micro content, a lot of clips, a lot of interviews, a lot of really cool content, and a lot of really cool interviews are out there, and there is something for everybody on my channel. And I can tell you this, I cannot promise you will be smarter, but I know that you will be entertained on my YouTube channel. So that's all I have to say on that. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate your time and letting me talk about my story here. Real passionate about my story, real passionate about indie comics. I love people that think outside the box and, are willing to take a break from Batman and Wolverine for a little while and try something a little different. The industry is built on people like that. So thank you. The people that have already backed, thank you, and the people that are thinking about it, you should. And when you do, thank you so much. I'm grateful for all the support I've gotten so far. Definitely.
Well, I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.